issue is when can I see the first reward? Where can I see the first job? Where can I see the first paycheck? Because until you don't get that, you can give up. Something really strong in the world, I think, is the social capital. This social capital is creating movements. When you create a movement and you belong to a community, I feel that you're able to move people to do things.
Yeah, I call it continuity mindset. When we leave, other people are able to take over and they're able to keep fit in that role that we have been able to, set up.
Discover, evaluate, learn, build, and scale. So these are the 5 phases of the developer journey map. The first 3 are more marketing and communications focused. That's important for onboarding and also important to keep people. Because at the end of the day, if you're talking to me, I'm a serious guy that maybe don't really connect with you, you will feel a little bit like, I don't belong to this community. You can be the best developer, but if you don't have charisma to be able to interact with your fellows in the community, I would prefer to have a beginner that is really charismatic than to have a master that is not charismatic at all.
Before we dive into today's conversation, I just want to say this real quick. If you're just finding us, thank you and welcome to the PT Podcast. And if you've been here with us since, thank you for sticking around. My team and I are building the PT Podcast for people like you who want to grow, people like you who want to feel seen, who want to be heard, who want to be stretched. So while you're here, we want you to do just 2 things that can help move us forward. Subscribe so you don't miss out on contents that actually sharpens and feeds your mind. That's literally the only thing we demand of you, to keep bringing high quality guests to the PT Podcast for every single one of us. And secondly, you want to go ahead and leave a comment right there in the comment section. If you have any thoughts, please put them down there. You do not know who would see them. You do not know who really needs them at this time. And you do not know who you are helping just by leaving a comment. Today's conversation is one of those conversations that you're not only going to hear, you're going to feel it. And we want you to take action by sharing this episode to your network, to different people building different stuffs at different phases of their life. That's the energy that we need to keep bringing high quality guests. And if there's someone in your mind, entrepreneur, founder, builder, whoever it is that you would like us to speak to, please write to us and we'll definitely make that happen. All right, let's dive in real quick to this one. Thank you so much for joining us, Santiago. Who is Santiago?
Who is Santiago? So I will say that I'm a proudly Colombian guy who loves Africa. I can be Santiago in one sentence. That's why I'm here in the middle of Lagos doing this podcast and spending 2 weeks in 6 cities in Nigeria, because I really enjoy Africa beyond my job. I'm here for passion, so that's why I'm here today. But I love football. I have been always playing football my whole life. Now I'm really strong supporter or fan in Colombia for some like a football team. I'm also really passionate about self-development. I like to interact a lot with people, as you can see, because I like to always try to create an impact on people in different ways. The impact can be created by doing a workshop, by having a conversation, by doing a trip, by in a lot of different ways, by making a video, by having a podcast, right? So I'm always trying to impact as many people as I can in different ways, and also really passionate about adventures. That's why I like road trips from Kaduna to Jos, or seeing gorillas in Uganda and all these different things. So yeah, I like adventures as well.
There are a couple of things that maybe have inspired you to, like Africa the way you do. Over the past few days, I've spent some time with you and I've listened to other people talk about how you've, formed and helped them shape their experience building in blockchain, and how you've inspired them to not only double down on personal development, but, do a lot of work within themselves and even to their society as well. And the experience is super phenomenal. So I want you to talk to me right now, or maybe to us, about how important you think it is to form communities around technology using human capital development and personal development.
Something really strong in the world, I think, is the social capital. I mean, we can call it like that. The social capital is creating movements. And when you create a movement and you belong to a community, I feel that you're able to move people to do things. As long as you have like a positive end goal, you're always able to move people to do something, right? So what we are trying to do, or what I'm trying to do personally, is creating the trust on this community that is, in this case, Nigeria, to believe that Web3 can change our lives, because that's what we need also in Web3. More people, more optimism, more enthusiasts joining the industry, because we need more developers, we need more users, and more people that believe in this, right? So I think that creating a community. Yesterday, I was having a conversation at 3 a.m. in Ikorodu with someone, and something really important that he was telling me is when someone from a company comes and give us advice, give us like a workshop or a conversation that allow us to understand how valuable we are for the community, right? Like, and that give us a sense of belonging. So I feel that sometimes at the end of the day, you don't want money, you don't want maybe things that people think you're looking for in blockchain, but at the end you want a sense of belonging to a community, and that's why I feel that that's kind of strong in this Web3 space, a sense of belonging to a community.
I think that's super important. I can't overemphasize how I felt the early stage when I was, quickly on board into Web3, and that was how the community made me feel. I still remember like experience yesterday when I saw Miss Purple and Abidemi, old time contributors from Bankless. That I'm like, damn, we all started Bankless Africa together. We're contributing and go attending events and whatnot. That community spirit, we still had it back yesterday. I felt like I saw my people from many years ago. Immediately I saw them, I was like, oh, it was a lot of happiness and there's a sense of belonging right there. So I kind of relate to what you're saying. And for people that do not know, Santiago is a developer relations. So I want you to like explain what that role means, as if I'm like 15, 10, I'm not able to understand tech.
Yeah. So developer advocate or developer relations is similar. It's mainly for tech products to onboard more developers to build in your product. So an example that I always tell people is, let's say that Apple has a developer relations, and this developer relations goals in Apple is that more developers come to Apple to build applications for Apple. Because at the end of the day, Apple will need apps. So more people want iPhone, right? Because if iPhone without Facebook, iPhone without Snapchat, or iPhone without Instagram, like no one will buy Apple, right? So, and these apps are not developed by Apple, the company itself, are developed by developers, by the Instagram developers, the Facebook developers, etc. So it's external developers coming to Apple, learning the documentation, and then creating applications for Apple, so more people will use Apple. So basically, a developer relations in this case is me as a developer relations of Apple, let's say, will teach the Instagram developer to come and develop Instagram for Apple. And then the other developer relations for Android will teach you how to develop Instagram for Android, and so on. Because at the end, they want just more apps built on Apple, more apps built on Android. In this case, more apps built on Lisk. So more people will use Lisk, right? More people will use Apple or Android. So developer advocate is onboarding more developers, teaching developers, keeping the developers as well, like keep them growing or learning more about their tech product. And yeah, and just keep like developing the community and keeping the updates.
Do you think that I can be a developer relations without being a developer myself?
So I will say that there's something called the developer journey map. The developer journey map are 5 phases of the developer phase when it's onboarding to a new product, right? So the first one is discover, evaluate, learn, build, and scale, right? So these are the 5 phases of the developer journey map. The first 3, I will say that are more marketing and communications focused. So it will be discover, so how I make that people discover my product, right? The second one is evaluate, how I make that people evaluate the idea of, oh, I trust this developer, I trust this company, I will make the decision to actually learn that. And then the third one is learn. So for the learning, is just basically teaching them to build a small app that will make them like as we call it, hello world app. So they feel like, oh, okay, this is just easy like this. Now when they are in the learn, they can go deeper into the build and scale phase, and that's where more technicality will be needed if you want to teach them build and scale. But depending on the company, sometimes they will have different developer relations, or they can have a marketing developer relations for the first 3 phases, and then the other 2 phases can be done by the engineering team or can be done by a more technical DevRel. So that's really flexible. But to answer the question, I feel that you should code, but you don't need to be a master. You just need to learn the product that you are teaching and some basic things to be able to talk to a developer. And yeah, because at the end of the day, your job is convince a developer to come and use this. So if you are not able to wear the shoes of the developer and tell him like, this is nice because of this, or you should use it because of this, it's hard, but it's not that you need to be a master developer before being a DevRel.
How about I'm a marketer? I'm a like superstar marketer. I know how to sell things. I know how to sell visions and ideas. And I'm like, oh yeah, I want to sell this ecosystem now to a bunch of dev guys. Tell them this is why you should build on this ecosystem. I think from what you've said, I may be able to sell it, but do I really have to know how to write code first?
But then I think that will be more a business development position. No, not really a developer relations position. Yeah, because then a business developer will do that. Will maybe onboard more ecosystem, more potentially developers, more partners. But then at DevRel, I will say that will be more on the ground, being able to sit with a developer and teach him in 1 hour how to build a simple app. It's not rocket science, but something that will take a couple of months of learning coding at least.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. I want us to go a little bit into the technical phase, how to empower builders. So the first thing I have in mind here is, do you think beyond documentation of builders, why that is important? Or is not enough to truly empower the developers?
So when you Google this developer journey map, you will see that for every phase, there's a specific internal resources that a DevRel should have, or the company should have, external resources. And documentation is one of them in the evaluate or learn phase, because a developer will check the documentation. So I just think that the documentation is a small piece of the whole thing that a DevRel should have for their product to onboard people. Because as a developer, if you only have the documentation, you can learn, you can do some things, but I don't think you will build a community, you will build a movement, or you will onboard a lot of people only with the documentation. Then you will need to have YouTube tutorials, you will need to have a Discord community, maybe a Twitter community. So you need to have all these things to have all the checkboxes of this developer journey map to make sure that everyone will come from different ways, from YouTube, from Twitter, from events, from workshops in person, because they met someone in the ecosystem in an event. So yeah, I think documentation is not enough, but it's always a must-have.
What are the other things I think I'm missing?
Tutorials. I think video tutorials are always really, really useful, because a 1 hour tutorial that will teach me how to build a DeFi application, I will watch that tutorial, right? So I think that's really important. Video tutorials, maybe trying to have on-ground presence is really good.
Yeah,
because then I am able to trust the person. Now I will like, oh yeah, I saw this guy, maybe I will watch your tutorial later, right? So I think the human interaction is also important, to send an ambassador to an event, or to send the DevRel to an event, or things like that, to at least have the presence is important. And the developer support. So the developer support can be on Telegram, on the Discord community, on tickets, depending on the level of the stat of the company. But yeah, being able to answer a question, if someone, hey, this is not working, do you know why? And then if you take a week to reply, developer, oh no, I'm out of the game, I'm already doing something else. So yeah, how fast you are able to reply. When I was working for Web3.js, that was actually one of my metrics that I put for myself, always replying questions in less than 24 hours. And I was always having it. Yeah, because I think that's really important for a developer.
How about interpersonal skills that needs to, sell something to people, sell a vision?
Okay, I think that would be really important for the discover phase and the evaluate phase, right? Like when someone discover a product, but the first interaction that they have with a product is a boring, serious guy that is not interested in talking to me, I don't think I will be really onboarded to that product, right? So yeah, I think that's important to, let's say, to sell. In this case, it's not selling, but it's convincing people to use my SDK, my API, my blockchain. So I think that's important for onboarding, and also important to keep people. Because at the end of the day, if you're talking to me, but I hardly reply, or I'm serious guy that maybe don't really connect with you, you will feel a little bit like I don't belong to this community. Yeah. So I think that's also important to engage and keep people.
You how to like design a perfect toolkit for builders entering the Web3 space? What would it include? What would it look like? A perfect toolkit, quote unquote.
I will start first by learning about Ethereum kind of decentralization and nodes. Because when I am able to understand that Ethereum is a database that is decentralized and distributed, that's like the first like click in my brain, like, oh, okay, so this is like a database, but like a server in Web2. But it doesn't matter if this server goes down, there's also another 10,000 servers running the same server. So the server will never go down, right? It doesn't matter what happened, the server will never go down. So learning these concepts of the Ethereum protocol is really good to understand the decentralization and the distribution. Then after that, depending on the path that you want to take, right? If you're a marketer, if you're a content creator, if you're a developer, but then what I would say is learning how you can build applications on this Ethereum platform, Ethereum blockchain, And maybe after that, I will say that something that must be part of this is how can I get a job? I think that should be perfect in this year. Yeah, because everyone learns what I just say about Ethereum, then about Solidity, smart contracts, and then the next is how can I get a job or how can I start a company, right? So I think that should be in the ideal manual to get into Web3, but it's not there yet.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really should, because so it's like something that gets to me as well. Most times when I'm trying to do like talent onboarding sections, for different people that I'm recommending Web3 to, the question someone asked me yesterday when I was trying to pitch them to come to Web3 Lagos conference, familiarize, and because they're like very good in the humanity layer as well. They know how to connect with people, and those type of people are even needed in teams and communities, right? To help it scale. Be people who are technical. Most of them, they don't know how to do like communication. They're not very effective with their communications and whatnot. But there are some other people that can sell and break down what they're building to people that are potential users and adopters, right? So one question he asked me is, how long do I think he's going to build here? How long do I think he's going to stay in this space, right? And I asked myself that question. Are you willing to stay here for the next 20 years? So I think I want to ask you that question as well, based on what we're talking about.
To stay where specifically? In Web3, in Lisk, or like as a builder to stay in Lisk?
As a builder, I don't think we want to like make it on the Lisk right now.
Okay.
Let's maybe take it to the Ethereum level.
Yeah. Okay, then yeah, as Ethereum level is a great question, because I think in Ethereum there is opportunities for everyone to build a long-term career.
Yeah.
Like Ethereum has been here for 10 years and it's just keep growing, keep increasing like opportunities. So I think there is at this point opportunities for everyone to come, set up a specific goal, and then work towards that goal of upskilling or learning. Yeah, as I say before, let's say if you are a developer, you can come learn and there will be job opportunities for you for the next 5, 10, 20 years, right? I think that's a sustainable thing for developers. If you're a content creator, there will be also the same. There is always marketing needed in all the industries everywhere, right? So I think there's also a sustainable path for content creators. Something that I wouldn't recommend is this speculation or hype or meme coins, because at some point you can get a job, you can get a good money, a good salary in something, but then when this hype goes down, then what you have there to offer, like what can you offer that has value for other people? So yeah, when people come to the Ethereum ecosystem, I think they can stay for a long time. I think that the issue is, when can I see the first reward? Where can I see the first job? Where can I see the first paycheck? I think that's the issue, because until you don't get that, you can give up. Maybe the first paycheck, in my case, it took like maybe 10 months since I started like, okay, this is my goal. So it took 10 months. But if I quit in the 5th month, then it will never happen and I will never be here, right? So it's just about how long it will take you to quit or to be able to stay, right? But then if you stay and then you get your first paycheck, it's just a snowball effect that it will just keep growing, right? As long as you're doing the things right. So yeah, I feel that this is a sustainable ecosystem for everyone. That would be the answer.
I actually agree on that. I think most of the things that you already mentioned in the Perfect Toolkit are super important for anyone who is like pretty much coming into this space right now and looking for, how am I going to be there for a long time? The way I see it is that impact starts the process of profit. So it's simple. Make impact, create value, profit follows suit. It's the simple thing that comes with like money answers only to value and nothing else. So I think how you've narrowed it down into those toolkits, simple bullet points that when you put them into action, they move you to the next phase of development. But at the same time, I think you want to touch base on mentorship and hands-on guidance, how it fills the gap that technical resources cannot provide. How it fills that gap that technical resources alone cannot job.
I think last year I experienced the impact of the guidance and the mentorship.
Tell me more.
When I came to do my first Africa tour with Web3.js, we were having a bounty from like building apps using different plugins, different SDKs. So what I have noticed is that sometimes there are issues that for me is just, maybe I was just looking at it and I was like, oh yeah, it's just this little hash that you put here, or this little parentheses that you missed, or the semicolon or whatever, that maybe for you looking at it, but why this doesn't work? So yeah, little things that maybe with the experience of me using Web3.js every day, it was really easy to spot an issue or to find the error why this is not working. And also just being like next to you, you will also feel encouraged. Like, okay, I'm with him. He is actually here interested in what I'm building. So yeah, actually giving the mentorship, giving feedback is really important. That's something that I feel that is being gold right now. Like being able to be here in Nigeria and people sharing their ideas or sharing their projects and me telling them some things. Something maybe it will not end in anything, but sometimes can change a life, can change the life, the path of a product. So just to give you a little picture or image of this, I was having a conversation yesterday in Web3 Lagos conference, and someone came to me to tell me an idea. I don't remember the idea about what, but the whole problem is that I asked him, how are you going to plan to monetize this? How are you going to make money with this? And he was like, yeah, I don't really know. And then in that conversation, I give him an idea, like, what if you have maybe the monetization of this? Oh, I remember the product. It was a product for people.
You think you want to share that? Just in case someone doesn't. Yeah. Just to like save someone's idea.
True, yeah, that's true. Okay, so let's start again. So we are talking about how we can monetize this, and then I was telling him, the best way to potentially monetize this is, what if you ask people to stake money? So if I stake money, that's my subscription. So I don't need to pay, let's say, $5 for a subscription. I just stake money, and if I stake $100, that means that I can use your product. And then if I can use your product with this $100, you will put that in a liquidity pool or earning some yield, and in that way you can make that money, right? And maybe you can potentially offer me, let's say, 5% of the $100 or something like that. But my main point is, you will earn yield of this, and you will also bring TVL, and all the layer 2s want TVL. They want that people locks money. And if I'm locking money, I'm able to use your product without paying a membership. It's just by staking, and then I have the money available at any time. But it was just something that came up from a conversation, and then it was like, wow, I never thought about that. And I say me neither, but the idea just came right now. So that was something that came out of a conversation, having feedback and thinking about ideas. And I feel that it was an interesting way of monetizing, like not paying for a membership, but staking money so you can use it. And if you don't stake, you cannot use it. Simple.
Comment, sorry.
It's okay. You are still in the idea.
I know it was a good one. I like this. I think this is the major role that mentorship offers, right? Someone sitting back and be like, oh, I know where this is actually going. I think if you go through this route, you're going to come here. If you go through this route, you're going to come here. So maybe perfect route, go through this way, right? So that guidance already does something to people.
Oh, let me add something there.
Yeah.
That's 100%. Something yesterday that I noticed too is, a lot of people don't need to make the same mistake that I did. They learn from the mistake that I did, right? So they know, oh, okay, that wouldn't make sense to do that. And a really easy example that I was also telling a few DevRels that came to me like, hey, how can I get started as a DevRel? And what I was telling them is, if you're a DevRel, don't start making videos by yourself for yourself. Like, don't make a video, oh, let's build this app on Ethereum. Like, don't do that. If I were you, I would look for a layer 2 or a layer 1 that is a small project, because they're looking for people like you that promote your project. So what you can do is, let's say I go to a small layer 2, and instead of me making a dApp for Ethereum that no one will watch my video, I will make this dApp for this small layer 2, and I can tap into the community of this layer 2, and they will proudly maybe publish this in their YouTube channel, or maybe give me a retweet, or maybe something, right? And this something can potentially give me an ambassador role in this company, or potentially I will be the DevRel, or maybe it will be the taking off point for me to be a DevRel or whatever. So this also came from conversations, right? And I think that this feedback was valuable for DevRels. Instead of doing your own, if you have zero audience, try to get into a small project that is looking for someone like you, and then you can contribute for free.
I wouldn't think it spans across different roles as well, as not only devs, right? If you're a graphics guy, you can start from a project that is not super famous just yet, but looking for your type of skill set.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are the downsides to this. Most time, this project, they don't have so much treasury to pay you at the time. So that's maybe why a lot of people are chasing the most popular ones and the ones that have a large chunk in their treasury, so they can, potentially get into the pool of people that can get incentivized.
Yeah, but at least this is good to get started to build a reputation or a
Yeah.
personal brand.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Now, the thing I want to know is, in your experience so far, so good. I think there are lot to dive looking at. In your experience so far, I think there are a couple things that you've experienced, that you've seen, that you would call barriers that developers face when they are transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3. Not everyone is a blockchain dev. Not everyone is a Web 3 builder and whatnot. So, but in the process of moving from Web 2 to Web 3, there are certain barriers that you've seen. I think you want to touch base on that and how you think would be one of the best way to solve that type of barrier problems.
Okay, that's a good question. So I don't have when I got started. Actually, I got started in Web3. I never did anything in Web2. So when people ask me about SQL, MongoDB, all these databases, I did a couple of things, but I don't know how to use that at this point. Um, so that's actually even good to show that you don't need to learn Web2 to learn Web3. You can actually start here like I did in Web3 directly. There's a lot of
Easy.
people that I will say that maybe it will be better for me if I started in Web2, because then I will also have a lot, bring different skills, different tools that maybe are used or are really efficient in Web2. But yeah, but this is possible. It's not needed. So yeah, that's the conclusion of that. But maybe something that I always see is that the Web3 ecosystem can be a little bit more startup driven, and that brings more. You need more adaptability. You need to be more quick. You need to be catching up in all the new tech that is coming up. So yeah, it maybe it's not as stable as Web2. So I think that bringing like mindset here to 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 be startup driven will be really really important as well. But yeah, in terms of maybe technical barriers, something that I always just mention is that in Web2, what you need is a front end, a back end, and a database. And in Web3, is just the front end and the smart contract, because then the smart contract is replacing the back end and the database. But then you can still do hybrid applications and then using a database and the smart contract and the front end. But yeah, just to make it simple, Web2, you have front end, back end, database, and here you have front end and the smart contract. And then in the smart contract, you will put all the logic. And just by saying these simple things, when I give presentations and people that don't know anything about Web3, they see that, they're like, wow, okay, it's just like that. Because they think that it has like a lot of random things, complex things, but no, at the end, it's just the logic and the database is being stored in the smart contract. And this smart contract is being stored in all these nodes around the world. And then your application will live in all these nodes around the world. So that's basically something easy for people to have a better picture of what's Web3 versus Web2 as well.
I think I was not super clear on this before. Now you would literally think there are like a bunch of backend devs in Web3 as well. I've had people say, "Oh, I'm a smart contract dev, and so I'm building this, I'm doing this," but I didn't know that there is this level of, okay, you have to be a smart front end and a back end and a database guy in the Web2 space. I would have thought before now, if I was not someone technical, that you you can do all of the things you do as a Web2 dev in Web3. But I think you want to touch base on, so I'm going to come back to startup driven, but for what I'm saying, for someone that does not understand the type of skill set that you need to become a Web3 developer, what would you recommend to do?
To become a Web3 developer?
Yeah. So if they were like super, let's say at the early stages of learning, um, technical
Okay.
part of writing codes.
Okay, something that I always recommend is actually learning the front end, the skills that will allow you to interact with the blockchain. So if you're able to create a front end, a dashboard that allows you to make a call to a smart contract to get the value of a token, for example, I think that's a really good starting point, because as a front end dev, showcasing that you know what is the blockchain, that you know what is making a call to a smart contract in Solidity using Ethers or VM or any other libraries to interact with the blockchain, that's the best way to start. And then learning Solidity is a whole another world. But for beginners, I don't really recommend starting with Solidity, at least to get a first job, because the issue with getting a first job with Solidity is that me as a company, I don't want to trust a beginner to deal with my smart contract that will potentially have millions of dollars, right? I want like a senior for smart contracts. But me as a company, I can hire this beginner front end developer to create the front end to interact with the smart contract. If something is wrong, we can change the button, we can change the color, we can change the text or whatever in the front end. But in the smart contract, it's a little bit more complex to make mistakes. So that's the issue. But I will recommend maybe the front end could be an easier path to get into Web3, and then smart contracts. And something else that I really like about the front end from Web2 developers is that there are a lot of hackathons happening everywhere in the world, in person or online. That can be your first step into Web3, maybe a hackathon, even if you don't know anything about smart contracts, even if you don't know anything about blockchain. Some of them are there to onboard you, right? Because they want you to learn the technology. In this Web3 world, you will always find people to work with. So you can make a team. You know, front end, you can get a smart contract developer, you can build something. Slowly you can learn about smart contract development. Maybe you win a hackathon. If you win a hackathon, then that will lead you to build trust. Like, okay, this team is doing something serious. This team knows what they're doing. Then you can be a reliable person in Web3. Maybe you will get funding to start your own startup or whatever. But yeah, just these little things. By joining a hackathon as a Web2 front-end developer, you don't know what will be the end result. So yeah, hackathons are also like a really good way to get started in Web3.
That was a good point, actually. You mentioned something just a while ago back. You said so most of these companies are looking for developers who are like startup driven. So I just wanted you to like clarify what being startup driven meant.
I think having a founder's mindset, and this founder's mindset can be that you are an entrepreneur. I don't know if you hear about that word, but entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when you are able to work for a company where you feel empowered, like this is your company, this is the type of employees that everyone wants in Web3. I think if you are able to believe and belong to the company, and it's hard because to belong to the company, you also need to believe in what they are doing and not being just there for the money. So if you are able to find this type of developers, this type of marketers, this type of employees, that's what people really want in Web3. So this will be people that are coachable, people that are able to listen to feedback and listen to something and learn, people that are resilient as well, because in Web3, a lot of times you will need to pivot. Something that you were working the past week, maybe stop and now working something else, and maybe you lost your time for a week or something like that. That can happen. So you need to be resilient as well. You need to be committed as well. Like, it's not that you are doing a lot of different things and just, oh yeah, I'm into Web3 part-time. That's also not a great thing. And part of the hype too, I don't think being meme coin driven will be having a founder's mindset. That's just maybe being money driven a little bit. So yeah, all these type of things will make you have a great integrity. And when you have this integrity, this founder's mindset, you're an entrepreneur, you have like a great profile to work in any Web3 company and add value to the company and the whole ecosystem.
Another thing that comes to mind as well is wanting to build something that people can use, right? Products that people can use as a developer, right? Product that can scale to $1 million mark. It may not come instantaneously, but over time, as you are working on them and like refining them, taking feedback from mentors and from collaborators as well, and from your users, you're able to like develop something that goes boom into the market while it's being built on blockchain. I think it's a very important thing as well. So I want us to double down on where, since you've been building in Africa, are you even having projects scale, enter the African emerging market? Where are you looking at that, oh, this is where the next generation of builders are coming from, right? This is the angle they are coming from. This is the mindset they're coming with. And how do you think advocacy should meet them?
Okay, I think that the next generation of builders could come from emerging markets, because I feel that this can be a way to achieve that freedom, or to make it like really honest, to break the poverty cycle. I was able to break my poverty cycle because of Web3. And if you and other 10 people see that happened to me, you will also believe, okay, if this guy did it, maybe I can do it too. So I feel that there's more poor people in emerging markets than in the US or Europe, right?
Correct.
So I feel that just by using this logic and these proportions, there are more builders that will come from emerging markets than from other countries. Of course, the quality and the numbers of developers. Actually, I saw one survey. I forgot right now the name of this company that they did, but the most number of developers were coming from the US, actually, Web3. Maybe because they also have the proper jobs, right? Like sometimes when you are just playing around and building a project, a hackathon, like at some point you're not really stable in Web3.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer the question, I can even say 3 countries. I can even say India, Nigeria, and Argentina.
I'm glad to know that Nigeria is part of the list. I think you should want to talk about how you think advocacy or learning or education should meet them if we must make them sustainable.
Yeah, I think education is already meeting them. Like education. So the case of Argentina, I feel that people were really resilient for all the issues that they have with the inflation and all these issues. So that's why in Argentina, I don't have the numbers, but always when I see the numbers, it's just crazy to know how many people in Argentina are already using crypto. Maybe not Web3 developers specifically, but using crypto. And that makes things way easier for Web3 developers too. Because when you already have people using crypto, you don't need to onboard new people to your product. So that's also way nicer. In Nigeria, you can actually already see how Web3 is impacting people here with in terms of education. And as I was in Jos, Kaduna, Abuja, here in Ikorodu as well, you see different hubs everywhere, and these hubs are basically teaching people these technical skills so they can change their lives as well. So I feel that the education basically is the opportunity to change our lives in these emerging markets.
That's actually very, very, very true. Another thing that comes to my mind while you're speaking was, let's take, for instance, you have unlimited resources right now. What is that type of community program would you structure and launch tomorrow to, make sure that everything you're talking about works?
That's a good one. So if I have limited resources, I think I will create a program with 3 things. So the first one will be education. So I will create a program that will help every person learn what they want to learn, right? If you are marketing, so I will teach you about marketing. I will teach you about development. I will teach you about even managing people for managers, for example. So yeah, the first thing will be the base of everything will be the education. The second thing will be the self-development. So if I can have a program that will allow you to be a really good communicator, to sell ideas, to have great interviews, to be good at personal branding, to build your CV, like all these little things, like that will put you in another step above the other people that maybe have an education but don't have a self-development part in their lives. And then the third thing is something to somehow make them contribute back to this so the resources don't end, right? Because at some point, let's say in this scenario, I have limited resources, but maybe not forever. So at some point, how they will be able to contribute to this? Let's say I'm training developers. If I train developers and they get a $5,000 salary, so I will ask them to contribute 10%, not to me, but at least to the fund of these other people of this program, right? Because then in this way we are making this sustainable, and then the upcoming people are also able to contribute. So yeah, first education, second self-development, and third thing, something to somehow make this sustainable over time, because that's also the hard thing in Web3. A lot of companies, a lot of people have money they spend, but there's no way to recontribute, and resources are not unlimited forever, right? So that would be an interesting way. How can we make this more sustainable?
Now, these are very good points. I think I like the last one because there needs to be a system that allows the program to be running, right? So in Jim Rohn's words, bless his soul, he would say, this is how to feed the goose that lays the golden eggs. So when you are giving back to the society, I think it's what teaches integrity, learning how to give back to a cause. So you're paying taxes, not because of you love it, but because, this is how you feed the goose that lays the golden egg. So this is how you help other people come on board as well. This is how you keep the program running. This is how you make this work for the next 30 years. So a percentage goes back. I think the top organizations in the world that are not blockchain based, are not Web3-ish, they are like adopting these strategies. So most of their alumni have a way. I think universities do it as well. I think Harvard or a couple other universities, they have the alumni, do this whole alumni thing and give back to other new students coming out of that place, giving them job opportunities in their companies. You did solid right there. I think I'm actually going to implement this. This is very good. I think in a nutshell, you want to share what a good Web3 community looks like to you.
Okay, a good Web3 community. So I feel that a good Web3 community should have two main things. One thing is the engagement of the people, like how committed are people to join a call. Because sometimes you have communities, but then when you ask them to join a call for any reason, 3 people show up, but then there is 1,000 followers on Twitter. So where is the community? So yeah, the commitment or the engagement to be part of the community. When we host an event, are you actually able to take this 2-hour drive to attend our events if you are part of our community? So yeah, commitment, engagement. The second thing should be we as a community, what are we giving the people?
That too.
Like I'm giving you knowledge, I'm giving you money, I'm giving you incentives, I'm giving you a trip, I don't know, but something to also make you a better person, give you a job, give you money or something that keeps you here. Maybe it doesn't even need to be money, but it can be mentorship. Like me teaching someone something and seeing that person growing, that can be for me fulfilling, right? So yeah, to make it more straightforward, can be a fulfilling like phase of this. So first the engagement of the community, and second, somehow a way to make people feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
Then I mean different things. That can be all different things.
Yeah, that's actually correct. Now that you mentioned this, I remember someone that was part of your documentary, right? I'm not going to mention the name, but he got all of us emotional in the room, right? When he was talking about stuff, I was like, okay, there's like a lot of good things, and you can see that this is coming from a human being to a human being. So, all of that.
I wanted to add something now that we are talking about communities. So last year, it was the first time that I was, let's say, being successful building a community with Web3.js. So I have an idea. I was like, I want to create a community. This is the oldest public good of Ethereum, but we don't have like money to throw to hire ambassadors. Like we don't have a big budget to do this type of things. So what should I do? So then I was thinking, I was just trying to be resourceful. I think that's one thing that defines me a lot. I'm really resourceful to find ways to do things. And then at that time, I launched an ambassador program without monetary incentives. And doing that in Web3, I don't think is easy. So when you don't offer money, people will not come.
That's right.
But then I was trying to find ways to provide value without money. And then I was saying like, okay, if you come here, we can have weekly calls, or we can have these community calls, and I will bring people that are good in Web3, like let's say the CEO of another company, a DevRel for another company, every week, you can ask questions to that person and you can learn from them. So that was one thing. And only the people that belong to this community were able to join the calls. So that gives you the sense of belonging and getting value. Another thing that I was saying is I will be willing to have calls with you and teach you to build your CV. If you have questions for an interview, I will be able to help you as well. We will give you a recommendation letter for LinkedIn. Like all these little things will give you exposure. So when you create tutorials, we are going to promote that tutorial for people. So all these little things lead to this Google form that I share on LinkedIn and Twitter to have more than 280 applicants all over the world. And then I ended up with an ambassador from Norway, an ambassador from Germany, from Spain, a lot from Nigeria, from Togo, from Colombia, just by providing this value with no monetary incentives, which was like really interesting for me last year.
I'm even going to like focus on the work that you've done so far. Thank you for sharing this, by the way. I've written them down here. I think this is how to create a strong community. Now, after this phase, you can now impute a lot of monetary incentives. Immediately the money starts coming in. Now, people like this are able to give back to the cause. As they are learning, they are getting recommendation letters, they are like getting employment opportunities. Most of them are making their first bucks. So it's part of how do we make this ambassadorship community super sustainable? When we leave here, I call it the continuity mindset. When we leave, other people are able to take over, and they're able to keep fit in that role that we have been able to, set up. This is a good strategy, letting them know that everything that you would want to see in a mentor is available to you in this community. And I think it moves in even other industries, building in blockchain and not on blockchain. So it's like an inclusivity type of thing. So this is really good.
A standard for communities everywhere.
This is super simple. I think a lot of projects needs to implement this. A lot of communities in Web3 needs to implement this. If not, you're going to see most of us. I say us because I don't like telling people you guys. Most of us, you're going to see most of us moving from this community to this community and this community. But if you give us something that is not only monetary in value, we're going to come back. People don't forget the hand that feeds them in most cases. So that's how I see it. So thank you so much for sharing that, Santiago. Now, building up from what we just discussed now, which is like building a community, the best ways to, start building a community that is not entirely money-centric. I want you to talk about some of the core mistakes that you've seen some communities in the past made, right? That has tanked them. They're no longer there. There are some things that you've noticed, maybe in previous communities that you've, been a part of, that has brought them down.
I think the first thing that comes to my mind can be these big protocols coming to Africa to throw money just to get a lot of marketing, get a lot of awareness, and then not seeing any result or not seeing real value coming in, and then just going away again. So the first mistake, or the biggest mistake, is just throw money without throwing value. And if you just think, because I have this money and then I will bring 500 developers to start building things here, I don't think that's a sustainable way, because then when the money is over, developers are over too. It's correct. So yeah, I just feel that that's the one common mistake. Maybe another, this is not a mistake, but maybe it's a nice to have, will be the charisma of the people. Like, you should have nice people in the community. You can be a really expert, whatever, the best developer, but if you don't have charisma to be able to interact with your fellows in the community, I don't think that will make people happy. That will make people to be there. It's better. I would prefer to have a beginner that is really charismatic than to have a master that is not charismatic at all for the community. I think, yeah, and I think that helps a lot to keep people part of the community. What else? I think that's
And that stops you think that different communities that already have systems operational for them could do better. I mean, you've been in Nigeria, you've seen a lot of people. You said something about people getting their first grant and getting a nice car. Not like something is wrong with that, but I think you want to teach people wealth creation and wealth retention.
Yeah. So I think that now there are two things that people are doing now. So the first of these projects, what they are doing is first show us the results, and then we will support. Like, show us what you are doing, show that it has traction, show that you are committed, and then you will have the support. And the second thing is, we support you a little bit, and now everything is just kind of milestone based. I think this milestone based is also really good. The issue with milestone based is that you need someone engaging with the project. And some protocols are willing to throw money, but not to spend time with the people.
That's correct.
So that's an interesting thing. Like, okay, we give these people 30K, 20K, 10K, but then no one is actually there to be willing to have weekly calls with them. And at some point, it's better to give less money, but giving someone able to follow up with them, to support them, to mentor them. So yeah, that's something that now is already shifting a little bit in Africa, which is good. So people can have like a sustainable ecosystem for the continent.
Yeah, what you said is true. It's beginning to take place right now, actually, especially around the milestone type of contribution. I still think that the biggest thing you can give someone as a gift, if not life, is your attention, right? So if you're able to give them attention to know what their needs are and communicate what your need is as a community, funding them, it would help the partnership, evolve. So there is a lot of transparency that could be done in the process of giving attention and receiving attention between these communities, both as technical people and as non-technical people, building in blockchain and any business at all. So for even non-blockchain based people watching this podcast right now, there are layers to all of these things that is actually beginning to take for. I think you want to give people more attention based from what you said. Listening to people as well. Yesterday, Santiago, you were standing in a particular spot, and it's just that these people were not cute. Yeah, it's just that they were not cute, but there were like lots of people hanging around from the left side, from the right side, saying, I just want to speak with Santiago. Now that's because you are giving them attention. And oh yeah, this person's sister, oh nice, let's take a picture, right? That's the type of thing we want to see, not only in Africa, but in different parts of the world as well. Jim Rohn said this as well. When he met John D. Rockefeller way back, in his words, he said he shook his hand, lots of camera guys there, the pictures, he said, what's your name? He said, my name is Jim Rohn. And he said, it's a pleasure to meet you, Jim Rohn. Where are you from? I said, I'm from Idaho. I said, I love Idaho. Now that was attention in a sneak peek. Lots of people we're looking at him. And that's credibility as well. I understand why some people might not want to give you their attention because some people might think they are affiliated with you or to you. But there needs to be a balance to this thing, especially if we want people to stay in this space for long and build integrity, products that actually hit the market and serve the masses. So I think I'm really grateful that you're pouring this out here for free. We didn't pay you to be here, and I'm giving you attention. Yeah, that's the thing. It changed the whole thing, and more than 1 million people would see this over the course of the next decade, and it's going to change their perception. This is golden. If Web3 would be here forever, this is golden. It's the humanity layer that we talk about. So I'm really grateful that you mentioned that as well. I think we need to do better.
That's why I have in my Twitter, besides from my job, I also have building the human layer of Web3. So that's something that
Very important.
I'm trying to do in different ways. When I was in Ethiopia with different people having a builder residency, I was setting up trips every week. But the main purpose of this trip, it was actually really interesting. It was not just to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm actually against just having fun. Like some people are doing pop-up cities or things like that, and they just think about the DJ, the party, and the alcohol, right? I'm not a bigger supporter of this, but that's different tastes, right? But then what I was doing with these trips actually was first selecting the people that I see most engaged during the week. So you deserve that. So that would also make you see like, wow, okay, if I am engaged in this residency, if I'm delivering value to this residency, I'm getting a reward. I'm not just choosing random people. So yeah, the first thing was because you deserve that. So that also creates this healthy competition. Okay, if I work, I see a reward in a different way. In this case, it was a trip. The second thing was a little bit of self-development. I will call it like that. Something that I noticed with some people in Africa is that people don't follow rules. I tell you, like, you're not punctual. I tell you, come at 4 and you come at 4:20. Like, why? Maybe, and you live in the next block, right? It's maybe not traffic. Maybe sometimes can be a valid excuse, but sometimes it's just, oh, I wake up late or something. So what I was doing with these trips, first giving you because you deserve this, giving you the trip. Second is the one that is not at 4 a.m. here, at 4 a.m. in Ethiopia. People from Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Ghana. If you're not at 4 a.m., at 3:50, the bus will leave at 4 a.m. And I'm telling you, all of you, if someone is not here at 4, we will leave you. And it was crazy to go downstairs and see how 20 people from Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, and Nigeria were on time at 3:50 a.m.
For the first time.
For the first. All right. So I feel that this is something that they will never forget as well. Like, okay, this is actually, if I follow a rule, it's true. And like the first day was okay, the first trip. But then the second trip, there was one guy from Ghana that didn't show up at 4. And we just left him. And we just left him because those are the rules. And I'm sure that guy will never forget that. And the 20 people that they were seeing how we were leaving this guy, it's like, okay, this is serious. We need to follow the rules. We need to be there on time. They will also never forget the lesson.
This is very, very crucial as well, because as we're building the tech, something that is very important to talk about is that it's the human beings who are
building better people too.
Yeah, you want to be able to train your children in this thing. So I don't know how people see it, but when I ask the question, how long do you think you're going to stay in Web3, that you would like to stay in Web3? For me, I think forever. As long as the tech is there and the evolution is coming and more things are coming, I will obviously be transitioning to more bigger, newer tech solutions coming. But how are you able to train other people, the smaller yous, to be there if you're not following the rules and regulations of the ecosystem? It's just there for your own sake, to make things work for you and other people. I generally think that there are little things here and there that could be done to make our lives here better. So there are actually human beings behind the codes, and we want to bring that moment into light. How important to you is it to document the real human stories behind this whole building things, not just their projects and their product?
I started reading a book about storytelling maybe 1 year ago, and I will never forget that one of the first things that says there is humans always remember stories like 20 times more than data. So maybe people will not remember that I work for Lisk, that I work for Web3GS, but they will remember that Santiago did some things in Africa. Santiago was present in Jos, Santiago went to Kaduna, because people will remember these stories, right? So I feel that storytelling or telling the stories of people that are able to succeed in the ecosystem is the way to inspire others, because people can relate to stories. Something that I will actually would like to see even from you here in Nigeria is getting these people that were able to get Web3 jobs and then do reverse engineering so other people can follow that path, right? So I feel that getting these people, because at the end of the day, I'm here, I love Africa, people relate to some things with me, but I don't suffer the same, I don't have the same, I didn't live in your neighborhood, I didn't have the same issues. So yeah, at some point, even getting these people that are more relatable could be a great way to inspire more Africans, for example. Yeah, success stories.
When you say reverse engineering, like let's say for instance, documenting other African builder stories, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like for example, someone that came to my mind right now, Jinka. Do you know Jinka?
Yinka?
Jinka, yeah, he's a developer relations as well. We have been good friends for over a year now. When I did my first workshop in Africa last year in Ghana, he traveled from here to there, and we give a workshop together. And I see him as a successful developer relations in Web3. Why? Because he has worked for companies based in Europe and the US, and he's still living here. So I think, for example, if you are able to talk to him and ask him like, hey, what did you do in the past 3 years to be able to be here today? Give us some advice, walk us through the process. So some people can follow the same steps and avoid the same mistakes to be able to have more Jinkas in Nigeria as well, right? Yeah.
Oh, okay. But then this has been super amazing. What exactly are you going to tell people to do right now for starters to implement this? Someone who is lost, confused, do not know what to do, where to go, hypes in Solana, hypes in Base, hypes in ETH. There is Lisk, lots of boots, Starknets. They are super confused. They don't know where to start from. And maybe they want to do dev. Maybe they want to do graphics. Maybe they want to do videos. Maybe they want to do this. What would you tell them to get started first? First thing they would do.
To learn skills that are not AI replaceable and to learn skills that can give you money. And then after you those two things, that you identify the skills, then go and learn that instead of just jumping in learning how to build a mini app on Cello, how to build a mini app on Base, how to create an app for WordChain, how to get into Lisk incubation program. Like before to jump in all these things, try to identify, not even learn, first identify a skill that is non-AI replaceable, can be build your personal brand, show your face in tutorials, or do something that is not really AI replaceable, like your soft skill, for example. Then try to identify a skill that will give you money, that is monetizable, because I like to be really straightforward with things. If we don't have money, we will struggle a lot. Then yeah, money is really important as well. And then the third thing is build something stronger than motivation, because if you rely on motivation will be here today, but not here tomorrow. And then tomorrow you will not be motivated and then you will quit. But then if you are able to rely on a plan, for example, and follow the plan every day instead of relying on a motivation, it will be easier for you. Like going to the gym. I don't go to the gym now because I'm motivated sometimes, right? Sometimes I'm motivated, but sometimes I'm just like, oh yeah, it's time to go to the gym, and then I will just go. So yeah, rely on a plan, on a system, instead of relying on motivation every day.
Now, this is extremely important. I like how you broke them down into like movable pieces. We can take one from here, work on this one. First of all, discover that's like research the skill that you want to learn and all that. Then go about evaluating. Then, oh, is it going to pay me money? Is it this? Then move ahead to, learn. And I can't thank you so much enough, Santiago, for giving all of us this attention today.
No, I'm actually really grateful, and thank you for having me here, for spending all this week with me in Lagos, for offering me like the guides, the resources, the time, the edition. Like I'm really grateful for that, because I'm sure that what we are doing right now in 1 month is not as valuable as it will be in 10 years. Like that in years, you will see at these videos, wow, it's really nice what we were doing 10 years ago. So that's something that I am starting to document everything that I do in my life, because I know that in 20 years, this will be really valuable. So thank you for documenting all these things.
Thank you so much, Santiago. I'm looking forward to documenting the stories of other people as well. The team and I, we're going to ensure that we tell and preserve our stories as builders who are moving the needle, driving adoption and all of that. Now, but to be able to do this, we want you watching us right now to do just one thing. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button. You may not want to hit the subscribe button, but it's definitely going to help you stay up to date when we drop new videos. You want to bookmark this video, hit the save icon. You may not need it right now, but you would definitely need it sometime in the future, or for someone else who would be in the position to request for this type of advice. And go ahead and share this with your network. It's not for you, it's for people. Remember, the greatest thing you can do for someone is give them attention and give back to your community. But until our next episode of Building a Blockchain podcast series by the Positive Thought Podcast, we want you to stay safe and be good. We're definitely going to link all of Santiago's portfolio and links to where you can get access to him, just in case you have different questions from this episode. And don't forget to tell him I saw you on the PT podcast. Sayonara. Thank you so much, Santiago.
Thank you.